you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Do you do these things so great? For real. Do you have a day job or do you just do this, like practice these voices? Like, this is crazy.
I do it when in my car when I'm by myself.
Yo, YouTube, and welcome everyone from around the world. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of First Time Watching Star Wars, coming to you right here from my YouTube channel, Comic-Jon, and I am your host, your director of distraction, your coordinator of chaos, John Hassinger. And with me, as always, on First Time Watching Star Wars, my good friend CJ. CJ, thanks for coming back. We have tasked you with a really unique mission, and that is to watch Star Wars for the first time in its entirety, from beginning to end, every single film episode. And you're doing it in the machete order, which is an order that people that have seen Star Wars before never got to do. And it's just amazing because I was on this group chat today that are talking about that order, and they're like, have you ever done it? And I'm like, I have someone on my show that's doing it for the first time watching Star Wars. And you watched episode 2 and 3 most recently. In the first show, we talked about episode 4 and 5, and now you're doing it in this machete order where you go back and you see the rise or the fall of Anakin Skywalker. Just overall, what are your takes before we get into your questions?
Well, thank you for having me, John. It's actually pretty cool to see. For me, it was almost like an origin movie. Now that we have that, very popular, the origin of every character and every major storyline. And so it was cool to see his origins. I will be perfectly okay if I never see these movies again.
So imagine me and people like me and Andrew. Andrew's our other friend who's supposed to be on this show with us, but things keep coming up. We're eventually going to get him on here. We are people that were fans of it from childhood. And then we went like 15 years without it. And then they put out this. And imagine our excitement, like, oh my God, they're doing Star Wars again. And then they delivered that. Basically, I equate it to just a show off of CGI that at the time was state of the art, and now just looks cartoonish.
There is something as too much CGI. Yes. And Avatar was probably the first movie to do it right, because this one's tried it, and it is horrible. I need to know this. Were they in a green screen the whole time?
It feels like it, doesn't it? Like they were never anywhere real.
For those that are fans like you guys know that there are some stories of the original Star Wars where, because of the visual effects, there's issues with the lightsabers. In our first episode, I was very critical of the editing, and I know it had to do something with that, right? Trying to piece together visual effects with real life. So I'll give them, now that I've seen that, I will give them grace to episode 4 and 5.
Right. Because compared to the evolution,
but those issues are still happening. There is a couple of scenes on episode 3. There's a battle between Obi-Wan Kenobi and the General Grievous, the droid with many hands.
Half droid, half human.
Where's the half human part?
Well, if you remember, not only does he have human eyes, he has a heart, and that's how Obi-Wan kills him. He stabs him in his heart. Burns up and it shorts him out.
No, I did not notice the hard part, but you read about the eyes. The eyes actually was a pretty cool.
Remember
pretty cool. Yes. It's I remember thinking that was a good whoever did that. They did a great job. Okay, there are a couple times in that scene in which I can see that they had issues or somebody forgot to edit his lightsaber the way they're supposed to. The lightsaber disappears in one of the things when he swings it instead of going down.
So there's like rendering edits that people were just like, oh, there's just too many lightsabers in this movie. I can't do it.
Yeah, look, my life is not as invested in Star Wars as yours is. I can understand now why when these movies came out, because I remember thinking, it's just a movie. Why would people care? It's just a movie. Enjoy it if you're going to go see it. Right? That obsession, I have put very little investment in it. I am disappointed too. Wow, here you had such an opportunity to bring this great story. Again, it's one of the greatest stories ever written. I think for me, that I'm a Marvel fan, is up there with characters and storyline. The universe it creates, the fantasy creates, I think is amazing, and it was excellent and very, very well creative. But it delivered just not a good movie. Acting is really bad.
Mm. If it
Palpatine,
wasn't for Ewan McGregor and Samuel L. Jackson, it would be like I don't even know.
who made these movies, by the way, it wasn't George Lucas, right?
It was.
But
He had always planned to do it, and he did it. And he said he had to wait for technology to catch up with his idea, which actually filters into one of your really good questions that we'll get to in a sec. Yeah, he did them all three.
He directed them.
Yeah, directed, produced, wrote everything.
So the episode 7, 8, 9, he didn't direct it. It's J.J. Abrams, right, on the last one?
Rian Johnson did. J.J. did 7, Rian Johnson did 8, J.J. is doing 9.
9, okay. There's a lot of, I'm telling you a little bit about the story here with Anakin and Senator Almidaba, or whatever her name is. And I'm going to jump really quick to this battle, and I'm going to jump back again to this. In that cutting, I think it didn't allow the actors to really dive into that scene. So a lot of the scenes are like really fast together, and the actors have to piece together an emotion that instead of having this build up in a scene as a scene builds up. For example, this is what the difference you see in the new movies that I really like. And again, I don't have to see the first 6 episodes ever again. I'll be perfectly fine seeing 7, 8, and 9. I'm excited about 9, 7, 8 again, because I think those are good movies. The scenes are longer. You can dive into a character, into a scene, into an emotion that's seen longer. They allow the actors to build in that scene and to get to that emotion. In this one, it felt like, oh, I want to tell you that I love you. I love you too. Cut really quick to the next thing. And then cut to something different. So they I believe, for example, one of the best scenes that I liked out of episode 2 and 3 was when Palpatine was telling, they were in some kind of show, water show, and he's telling Anakin for the first time that he can hook him up with the power of the guy that knows how to avoid the people he loves from dying.
Yes.
If you notice, that is one of the longest scenes in these movies, okay? And it allows that build-up. It starts with a cheesy conversation, but they're sitting down, and you see Anakin going from just defending the Jedis and defending what they stand for to that, changing that's, and you see it on his facial expressions, and that long scene allowed the actor to build up. I think that's the best scenes in that movie, and I believe it. I believe Palpatine. I believe Anakin struggled to decide and to start considering the dark side for the first time, I believe. So I don't think he knew what the struggle was, and at that moment, it's the first time he considers it. Palpatine being a little bit nervous, like, okay, here I am. I'm about to throw this pass out there, see if he's gonna catch it. It's the first time I'm going to admit that I'm okay with the dark side. The rest of the fast cutting that they did from one scene to one planet to another one, I think it takes away from the story itself. And again, I do not need to see those movies again, but I do have some questions because I do want to know some things that I think leads up to episode 9, and I am more confused now than I was before.
Oh, well, terrific. That's why we're here.
Questions.
I completely agree with everything you say, especially that scene when they're at, like, it's like an opera, weird ribbon water.
Yes, aquatic show.
And he joins Palpatine, and Palpatine tells him about Darth Plagueis the Wise, who figured out a way to bring people back to life. And he shared it with his apprentice, and his apprentice killed him. Palpatine was his apprentice. And he used that to plant the doubt in Anakin's head that, it's possible. And he keeps having those dreams about Padme dying in childbirth. And so he's desperate, and he's doubting, and the Jedi are quote unquote holding him down. The Jedi Council's holding him down. Episode 2 and 3, besides a few lightsaber battles, Yoda and the Emperor, Obi-Wan and Anakin, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Dooku 2 times, Yoda and Dooku. That Emperor and Anakin scene is the most rewatchable parts of the prequels that don't have many rewatchable parts. It's definitely something that I know for a fact, not for a fact, but I am so confident that J.J. Abrams is going to use something from that in this movie in episode 9.
When I was watching the trailers of episode 9, there was one that had a laugh. And then people went bizarre. And I was like, okay, who's that guy, right? At first I thought there was a guy from episode 7.
Good.
I first thought there was the guy from episode 7 and 8. That's very skinny, slingy, long. And people in the comments were like, no, it's Palpatine. So now I understood after watching, 2 and 3. I was like, okay, so that's Palpatine. That's the guy that keeps showing up as Darth Vader's master, and Darth Vader is his guy. So that was pretty cool to see. I want to see. By the way, I also want to see episode 6.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi.
Because I want to know what happened. Just so anybody watching, you told me not to get into the timeline because I'm probably my mind's going to be blown if I do, right? Like the years that pass between one thing and another one?
Yeah. Like that's kind of vague. I mean, you asked, one of your questions was how old's Anakin, how old's Padme? And I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, they're not that far apart in age. And, like, remember, they're in another galaxy. Like, who knows, like, what numbers and, they don't, like, apply math to it. But timeline-wise, it's pretty accurate.
Okay, so I used the wrong term. That said, we can discuss timeline. Years. Because episode 3 ends with Anakin's uncle looking pretty young. And not Anakin's uncle, Luke's uncle. Being pretty young when they get Luke as a baby.
Right.
How old is Luke on episode 4, 5, and 6?
Uncle Owen, when he gets Luke for the first time, is like early 30s.
Okay, then he's 50 when he is on New Hope, episode 4.
Right. He's 50.
Okay.
He lives in the desert. He doesn't have great health care.
All right.
The Empire's kind of tightened its bolts. But let's get into your first question. Question number 1 from Attack of the Clones. How old's Queen Amidala? She is, I'm going to say, between 19 and 26. How old's Anakin? I'm going to say around 17. Okay. What happened to the modern cities? That, my friend, is something that confused the shit out of me when I watched those movies the first time. Both of them. I was like, oh, get it. Why is everything like brand new? And then I forgot. The Empire took over and fucking destroyed them all. And that's why the Rebellion have these like clunky X-Wing ships, and they have to borrow ships, and they're all kind of like this used stuff from the Clone War, this like leftover crap. It's like what Afghanistan has. They have like our old war equipment,
Yeah. Okay. Good point.
It's weird though, because you're like, wait a minute, why is it all new? Because it's in the past. That's when it was new. The original
before the
trilogy,
big war and all that. Okay.
Right.
So the Empire really just, fucked it up. It really destroyed it, because on episode 4 and 5, it says in the desert and old buildings, and then that makes a lot of sense. Right. I appreciate that. Exactly. Didn't think about that. Okay.
Dude, me neither. I was just as like baffled. Django is not a Mandalorian. However, there's a whole bunch of people who dress and look just like Mandalorians, do everything that they do, but they're not part of the guild. They're not part of that like group. They just do their own thing. Like Jango Fett, I don't really know much about Jango Fett because they don't really tell you much, but Boba Fett is just a freelance bounty hunter. Like, he gets hired by anybody. He works for the Empire mostly, but it's not like he works for them. He just does jobs for them.
Okay, great. Because if anybody didn't watch episode 1 yet for our show, I started watching Star Wars because of The Mandalorian. I love the show, and I watched episode 7, 8 because they're great movies in Rogue One. But really, to say I'm a fan is because of The Mandalorian. When I saw him there, I remember that it's in episode 4 and 5. Boba Fett is. It's not a question that I don't know why I didn't think about it, because he is a bounty hunter there. But I feel that in 4 and 5, for example, when he tells him to Darth Vader that he needs him alive, is he worth more alive for him?
He's no good to me dead.
There you go. I feel, okay, that's at least the guilt, code. I need him alive, not dead. Well, with this one, I feel this character is a very dark character. He is raising a murderer. He's raising an assassin, a kid that it is okay with seeing people get killed. So I was wondering if there was some of that honor in there because of his outfit. Okay, so he's not a Mandalorian.
No, and he needed him alive because that's what Jabba is paying for. Jabba the Hutt wants him alive. If you catch him, don't kill him because he wants to kill him himself. So they test out. Are they
related?
So all of the clones are clones of, all the stormtroopers are clones of Jango Fett, but he kept one, Boba Fett. So they're clone. He's a clone but he lives with Jango as like a son until Mace Windu chops his head off, of course.
All right, hold on. You just blew my mind. Okay, all right. Let's back it up.
Okay, remember when Obi-Wan Kenobi goes to Kamino, that rain planet, and with those tall white people, hello, Master Kenobi. They have been making clones for like a decade or so for this guy, Master Sifo Dyas, who was a member of the Jedi. What the hell was he? He was a Jedi Master, actually, and he was a human. And he was like, yo, some shit's going to go down soon. I feel badness coming. So can you guys just like make us an army of clones and base them all off of this badass bounty hunter, Jango Fett, and let him stay here? And Jango Fett's like, all right, I'll do it, only if you give me, one like of my own, like a child, like a son. Hearkening to our current Mandalorian with Baby Yoda. They have like a father complex or something.
So I remember in the movie, they did tell him he has to keep one, and at some point I forget that. Like I feel that he's just his kid. So then that's what I said earlier. Man, he's raising an assassin. What a kind of father figure is he? He's not even raising that's him. Right. So that evil mentality that he has, that's the kid. It is him, just in a younger version of himself, and that is Boba. So, in one of my questions I have for you, because of the last name Fett, is that Boba Fett is he related? And then that's actually him. So
right.
he's
just
clone.
The clone.
Oh wow.
And he
grows
up.
Gosh. Okay.
He grows up wanting to be just like his father, who he basically just looked at him as his father, and becomes the most badass bounty hunter ever. Oh, you said
okay. Wow.
the actor playing the Emperor was terrible. You knew it was him the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We're like, that guy's snaky.
Yeah, from the first scene, the look he's giving I think it goes back to our beginning. I don't think that some of the actors sometimes had the opportunity to develop the character, or at least do it. It had to be quick, and so I'm pretty sure at that moment somebody's like, be sneaky,
right.
Because that's the way that he came out. It was so obvious. Like even I did not know, and immediately I knew that. So
the next question, you say, what Anakin is the prophecy? What is the prophecy? A balance to the Force, and this is so weird. Okay, so all the Jedis are like foreseeing a balance coming to the Force. The only thing is they're at like an extended period of peace right now. So a balance would mean chaos. So then chaos does ensue, but then it is balanced by Darth Vader in the very end. That's why I always think when Yoda says there is another. The other, because Ben's like, that Bo is our last hope, and Yoda says, no, there is another. I think it's Darth Vader, because I think Yoda knows no way Vader's gonna let the Emperor kill his kid. He's gonna be the one to do it, because Yoda knew Luke couldn't handle the Emperor, but he knew Vader could. Anyway, sidetrack.
Is that episode 6?
Yeah.
I need to watch it. All right, I'm gonna watch it.
It's my favorite. The only thing is the version you're going to watch is digitally splattered in places that it shouldn't be. I mean, it doesn't ruin the movie, but it's so unnecessary.
Okay. So if you don't mind, I would like to put a little bit of a question here then, because I'm confused. And you brought it up. You said, well, the entire time they're saying he's gonna bring balance to the Force,
Right.
and the assumption is that it's gonna bring good.
Right.
But they've been in peace this whole time, so it shouldn't be good. It should be bad. It's obvious. What's going on at this period? Because the Jedi's, it seemed to me, based on 4 and 5, episode 4 and 5, and 7 and 8, that the Jedi's were, if you were a Jedi, you were badass. And I remember I asked you, how come Luke is not impressed that his dad was a Jedi? And you're like, well, they were a legend. You know, it wasn't a real thing. People did not know if it really happened or not. Okay, so in this period of time, this is a period where they existed, and they were badass. They were abundant. They rule. They keep the peace. But they were. What was happening with the Force? Were they blinded by the dark side? Because it seemed like they couldn't tell what was happening, and that's one of my questions. I don't know if you got to it. One of the questions that I have, it is might be on episode 3. Obi-Wan surprised by Anakin's jumping inside the room or something, like he got scared or coming out of an elevator, and I had it in my notes. So it's almost like I thought that they sense each other, so he shouldn't be surprised by that. So are they all weak-minded at this point? Like there's something happening with the Jedi's mind, and they couldn't see, they were being tricked, they couldn't see the Palpatine was the Sith?
Well, see, yeah, I mean, okay, so Mace Windu and Yoda were like, and I think even Qui-Gon, they were like, there's a Sith like hiding amongst us, and like we can't like find them. Like we know there's like an imbalance, like there's a villain here, and we can't find them. Little did they know there was, but in the rule of the Sith, there's the rule of 2. There's the master and there's the apprentice. So there was a Sith, and the Sith was trying to find his apprentice. So like Windu and Yoda kind of like felt it, but you saw Emperor Palpatine, even though you and I could see it right away, he was fooling everyone, playing just this senator. But like as the movie progresses, Mace and Yoda become like way suspicious, and they're like, fuck, like what's going on? Like get Obi-Wan over and check out what the hell's going on Camino, and check out those clones, like what's going on over there. Let me go talk to Chewbacca and his people, like, and make sure everything's like okay. And then Order 66.
66.
So okay, so and then also to touch on your question about, like, yes, they can sense each other, but remember, there's the scenes where they talk about like, oh, I can sense so and so is here. They were like standing still in like a quiet room, and like not a lot of noise, and they're kind of like Vader's like, Skywalker's on that ship, like I can sense it from here. Obi-Wan's like dying, you know, like that crazy opening scene. Anakin's carrying him on his back, and then all of a sudden he flies back in. Maybe he just didn't catch him. It's not like this 24/7 like super radar that they have, but like if they are in the moment and can like channel it, they can, you know, touch into a lot. So Order 66. Well, you ask, this is one of your questions in the Revenge of the Sith. So hold on.
We're going to okay. I mean,
hold on. And okay, here we go. And we're still on Attack of the Clones here.
Okay, great.
I have such an echo; it's driving me bonkers. Anakin does not have a father.
Well, I mean, like in the movie, but
who is Anakin's father? There is no one. His mother simply became pregnant. They think she was like just this endless spout of midichlorians, and Anakin just formed in her and was born, manifested like, by the Force.
Like Virgin Mary?
Yeah, exactly.
You sure that's not the story she told at the bar?
Right. No, dude, I did a video about this because I think, what if in The Rise of Skywalker we get some sort of explanation about how the hell Anakin doesn't have a dad?
Hold on. Man, okay. I'm afraid sometimes to ask you the questions because I'm afraid of this happening. Now I have more questions.
Well,
Okay, so now, so Anakin, the prophecy so he's part of a prophecy. We determined that it's the other opposite of what we thought it was going to be. He's not going to bring the good, he's bringing the bad. But then he comes from just appearing. She just Mary, Father Joseph. That's just,
and there isn't even born. A Joseph.
And there's no Joseph. Yeah.
Obi-Wan eventually. But yeah, I mean that's the canon, that's the story, that's the official ruling medical wise in the Star Wars universe, that Anakin Skywalker was born just simply by the Force's will. But again, I think in Rise of Skywalker, the Emperor is going to reveal something that explains more.
Okay, so why? Okay, see this Force thing, I feel we need to have an episode just for the Force, because then are there any other dark Jedis, Sith or whatever they call it, dark people, dark?
The Sith.
Like, is it in this world right now? There was only the Jedi's and Palpatine and Count Dooku. That's it.
Right.
So, but if I was in that world and I was born with the Force, and you know the Jedi Council determines that I can be trained to be a Jedi, at what point I make a decision, or am I going to the dark side or as a Jedi? Because then Anakin is the only one that ever goes through that.
No, Count Dooku did.
Okay, two, and then the other, like, so is a 2 percentile, the 1 percentile of Jedi.
Kylo Ren did.
But in the period where there's all Jedis, all the Jedis are everywhere, you know. They have parties just for Jedis, you know, by invitation. They have the jackets, members only. They don't go to that struggle of growing up and then deciding. They're just born good. If you have the Force in your Jedi, you're good, because then Anakin was the exception, and Count Dooku, and then Kylo Ren.
Well, there are Jedi that can channel both sides, like, and not become aggressive and violent. And there's only a few of them. Mace Windu is one of them. That's why he has a purple lightsaber. That's why he like owns the Emperor and like only loses because Anakin jumps in. He can do both.
Okay.
But it's rare. Okay. And I guess it's more or less like, if you're trained and taken care of and not the chosen one, then you're going to be okay. But when you have like this almost unfathomable amount of potential either way, the bad guys are going to come and try to find you.
Okay.
And use you.
Thank you for that.
R2-D2 is a Force-sensitive droid. It's confirmed.
It is. I'm confirmed. You cannot tell me any difference.
I've been rewatching all the Star Wars movies. Like every night I just throw a new one on. And I've been watching R2-D2 closer, and it seems like he has the script. You know, he's like, no, guys, we go this way. You know?
Yes.
He's always leading them.
R2-D2 is the only one, and after we discussed this in the first episode, not the last episode, that I asked, is R2-D2 receptive to the Force? Because the decision he's making on his own. 2 and 3, for me, confirm that. He's making a lot of decisions, all the decisions, on his own. Nobody's giving him any orders, where the other droids require an order to do something, require a human to tell them what to do, require an action to happen and a reaction, where R2-D2, it is proactively doing things. When Princess Amidala and Anakin on Attack of the Clones are in that factory where they're making droids, he knew there was going to be an issue, and he went and pushed C-3PO to go, and he got involved. So I am completely confirmed that R2-D2 has a soul, and because of it, he is force receptive. And if he would have arms, he would be a Jedi. He is awesome. He's one of my favorite characters. He is so cool. I think he is the unsung hero of this entire saga. And then of course, and he continues on 7 and 8, and he keeps doing his thing. But I do have a follow-up question, and I think it's on the questions there, and it's about R2-D2. What the fuck happened to his flying jetpack or whatever he has on 2 and 3? He flies in episode 2.
Well, remember, he's like new R2. Everything's like new and not like banged up and like destroyed and gone through like all these battles and like flown through outer space. Like he's busted up. And obviously they didn't have the technology. That's why it was so cool in the prequels. R2 could like do anything. And I love when he like shoots the oil out and then like uses the blasters to set it on fire and fly up and go away and sets all the droids on fire. Like he's so crazy. But yeah, by the original trilogy, he's a rusted bucket of bones.
Can barely move. And I understand that. So why did they add it? I would love to one day sit down with the people that made this. I know it's everybody's dream.
Right.
And just be like, what were you thinking? Like,
he's
what were you smoking when you decided to put rockets on R2-D2? Knowing that they didn't have it before. It's not like you can go back and add it. Can you imagine R2-D2 having rockets on episode 4 and they just digitally added them?
That would be lame. Yeah, that would look stiff. Well, I guess out of all the things that they could have done, that would have been probably easy to make look good. The Jedi battle scene, it was horrible. They should redo it.
Yes.
Your question blew my mind because I'm like, oh, imagine if they did make that scene now. Like it would look like Endgame, like they could make that look insane.
Yes.
That final battle in Endgame, they could have that version, but with like a billion Jedi.
I go back to, movie making 101, which I didn't take that class and never taken any class. I'm not professionally trained. So this is just a very amateur opinion. But I feel that the angles that they use in that scene to introduce the badasses Jedi was so lazy at some point. Like, oh, we're just going to use everything computer. So we're just going to make you stand here and do a very awkward movement that doesn't seem like you have been trained on using these things. And it's like the first time you put batteries on your lightsaber. So, I'm going to turn it on like I'm scared of this thing because I can shut my arm off. And I skipped class that day, so I don't know how to use it. It could have been so much more. And I think that's how I feel about these two movies, 2 and 3. It was this restaurant that's been announced in your town is a new restaurant, and it's great. It's country food, and they're advertising it with great mac and cheese and great barbecue. You go, you wait 2 hours to get in, and when you get in and sit down, you taste it for the first time, the first bite, and they did not use salt. They don't use salt. They didn't use flavor. And you're so disappointed, and you're like, you got it all there, and you did not put flavor on this thing. And then the mac and cheese tastes like nothing.
It's just a testament to technology and how fast it evolves, because at the time, those movies were, again, special effects groundbreakers with CGI, and oh my gosh. And now you look at it, and you're like, it's a cartoon compared to how
it's a cartoon. Exactly. It's like Clone Wars. My son watches Clone Wars. I'm like, it looks just like that. The scene of Obi-Wan. Wow, you touched something so good, because I thought of that when I was watching it. Obi-Wan was the only human in that whole scene, the only real person in that scene. Seems like it. Everything else looks cartoonish, and but outside the CGI portion of it, one, overusing it, and two, I think relying too much in it, where they lost what it could have been a great story. It could have been the characters' involvement, better scenes, better dialogue, much deeper dialogue. I mean, this is an origin story. This is where it all began.
I see love stories in movies that are done so well. And Anakin and Padme was just so shoved down our throat like a sack of sawdust. It was just so bad. And I agree. I think that all I remember was my initial reaction was like, so my best friend and I didn't see it at the same time. And so when we finally got together to talk about I think it was Attack of the Clones, I was like, all I felt was, look what I can do. I'm George Lucas and I have special effects. Oh, yeah. And there's lightsabers in the Star Wars movie. Yep. It wasn't like about this great story to tell. It was just like a show off of CGI.
Yeah, it was.
It was exhausting.
Very exhausting. I think there were some scenes that could be taken out. I don't know what it could have been. This is the time, whenever they see, hey, we're going to redo Ghostbusters, and you're like, don't touch it. Don't touch something good. Oh, we're going to I hope that Joker is never touched. 20, 30 years from now, my grandkids are watching the original Joker, and there's a reboot of the Joker. I think there should be a reboot of this. Let's not wait any more longer. I think there should be a reboot.
I agree.
Straight to Disney Plus. I don't care how they do it, but there should be a reboot of all these stories. I mean, even the same story, just redo it. Just redo it again.
So this is why the fans are so divisive, because there is a giant group of Star Wars fans that saw the prequels as their first Star Wars movies, and they love them. And some of them are like, yeah, the original trilogy's great, but the prequels are awesome. They have so much better action. And I'm like, that's just so hard for me to even wrap my head around, but I get it. Rocky IV is my favorite Rocky, and Rocky I won an Oscar. So when I tell my dad's friends that, they slap me in the face.
How dare you? Not really from Philadelphia.
Right.
They kick you out.
Sorry. When I was a kid, Rocky IV was new, and that was the first one I saw, so it was my favorite. Who was the kid?
I forgot. Sorry, John. Who is the kid? The kid is somebody.
The kid at the end of The Last Jedi.
Who was the kid? I don't know. I don't think I was talking about Boba Fett's kid. I think that's what it was. Honestly, I think I was thinking about Boba Fett's kid because he's there all the time.
Yeah, Django.
Django. Now you tell me about
Django Unchained.
Yeah, sorry about that. So
there's a million memes out there. Django Unchained, and it's Django Fett combined with Django Unchained. That's
funny. That's actually pretty good. And then my last thought on Attack of the Clones. That I love Rogue One. I think it's a great movie on its own. Now that I know what the last scene does and how important the last scene was to the beginning of all this, is great. But the alarm is awesome. So that is an Empire alarm, right? That's if they put an alarm, it's an Empire because it is used by the clones that eventually become the Stormtroopers.
Right, but I think the clones were originally with the Jedi, and so I feel like that's the Rebels' alarm if the Empire's coming.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, because you hear that right before Vader gets there, and those guys are running around. They're like, fuck, Vader's on the ship, somebody's on the ship.
Okay. Well, when I heard it, I was like, that's from Rogue One. That's the alarm from Rogue, which I think is a genius. By the way, something so simple as an alarm, but whoever designed the sounds for Rogue One and all these movies, that's one thing that I will appreciate. That's my favorite thing. And by the way, this is a surprise for you because I did not put this in any of my notes. When I don't know if you remember from episode 1, I was introduced to Star Wars by this friend of mine who was a big fan in Nicaragua because he had the capability to come to the United States. He had the money. He was rich, right, compared to the standard. I fell asleep watching the movies, but he let me borrow a cassette of the score of 1, 2, and 3, and I used to, not because it was boring. I love to go to sleep with music. That's when I was growing up. And that was great music. I didn't know anything about the movies. I did not watch the movies, but I love the composition, the music on episode 2 and 3. I think for me, I like them much better than 4, 5, and 6. Of course, you have the classics. You have the classic intro song and all that. Right. But my favorite thing of 2 and 3 is the score. the background score behind it. It's I love it.
John Williams. He's amazing, man. He's like one of the greatest, and I don't know how he does it. Like he just always makes good scores to Star Wars movies.
Well, the scores and the sounds, like a lightsaber sound, it's so cool and so recognizable. For me, that alarm sound brought me to the future, brought me to the movies that I like, the ones that I watched in Star Wars. So it was for me, it was a cool thing. So.
Dude, my brother and I were talking about on our other show, I Have Spoken, where we review The Mandalorian, about the sounds and how much I love the sounds because they're from the original trilogy, they're from the prequels, they're from the new movies now, and they're in this show. Like, if you go back and listen to, in Return of the Jedi, you'll hear Boba Fett shoot his gun, and it sounds just like Mandalorian's gun. Yeah. It's so awesome. And those speeder bike things that they were flying through the desert on, they're in Return of the Jedi, and they sound the exact same.
That's cool.
So episode 6, you're gonna love it. Let's move on to, in my opinion, the best of the prequels, Revenge of the Sith. It is cringeworthy at moments, but for me, it gives you a lot of Obi-Wan, the Emperor and Anakin, Mace Windu, Yoda, Chewie. I mean, it was fun. And obviously Order 66.
That was pretty cool.
We'll get to that in a sec. Right, this is when you asked about can they sense each other all the time? It's not all the not like it was like it's like a spidey sense. No, it's not like a spidey sense because that is 24/7, unless he's in a funk or just came back from outer space, being dusted. Opening scene just showcases. The opening scene, you said it was a complete waste of time. I think it was just kind of to show how far Anakin has come, and like at this stage he's kind of carrying Obi-Wan, like he's like basically the master. But I agree, it was like a whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah, really. You could have started the movie after that scene and it'd still be fine for me.
You said that this scene here with Anakin and the Emperor talking about Darth Plagueis the Wise. Best scene in the prequels, is that what you say?
Yes. So that is a scene that we were discussing earlier. That is my. I know these are not questions. It was more notes. The best scene so far for me was between Palpatine and Anakin when they're in that show, the water show.
What happened to Padme? She's a completely different character. Well, why don't you tell me what happened to her that might make her slightly different?
Well, so the episode 2. Great character. She's fighting. She's shooting weapons. She is a hero. Out of the 3, you have Obi-Wan and you have Anakin. You have her. She's the one that gets the change up when she's about to get killed. And all of a sudden, episode 3, and I don't want to go with the obvious that she got pregnant.
Well, yeah, that's what happened. She was carrying twins.
Okay, it's so backwards. Like really, I guess. It's the times of these movies came out in the early 2000s. Yeah. So about almost 20 years ago. So different times, right? So she got pregnant. So now she becomes a side piece episode, a character that she's not only the badass hero that she was before and a strong politician. They wanted to make an impact in the galaxy. Not only whiny. I mean, she's whiny.
Right, she was not like a good decision maker all of a sudden. That's true.
She's scared, and every time she sees Anakin, she cries. And this is before she found out how horrible he is. I honestly believe that she is the reason why Anakin, not because of the obvious death, but her lack of strength, like her whining, her it's what drives him crazy. I think that we need to blame her. I think she could have done more. Or could have done less. Stop the complaining and the whining. Let the guy do his thing. I don't know. I am going to say it, just as I said it before, of all the things. I am completely, now, I don't like her. I don't like her character. Okay? I blame her for what happened. And if the galaxy is destroyed ever, it is because of her. And we can all blame her for it. You know what? Now I'm gonna start a hashtag that says rescue Anakin, and it's from her. It wasn't Darth Vader's fault. Don't blame him
She
anymore.
pushed him over the edge. It wasn't Palpatine. It wasn't Obi-Wan. It wasn't Mace Windu. It was the Queen, Lady Amidala.
Yes.
Are certain races not able to become Jedi?
Yes. So what's up? Why the Wookiees, for example? I don't see a Wookiee Jedi. I saw in the episode 2, a lot in episode 3, a lot of different races are Jedis. Completely, not just humans, but other races are Jedis.
Oh yeah.
But the Wookiees, for example, there were no Jedis, and so I was just wondering if there is a thing where are some races not Jedis? Because if I'm correct, isn't Yoda's race pretty strong with the Force, or is just Yoda? Yeah, right. Like
apparently.
If you are a little Yoda, whatever that race is, because do we know what race is, by the way, or do we don't know?
No,
what the
we
race
don't
is?
even know the name of it.
Okay, those guys. That sounds so bad, doesn't it? Them people. Sounds so
That's
awful.
why we call him Baby Yoda, because it's not Yoda. It's just a baby that looks like Yoda. We don't know what else to call it.
Okay, so so then that's also my question. Why there's no Wookiees that are Jedis?
That's an amazing question, because a Wookiee Jedi would probably be the most badass Jedi in the world, because they're giant monsters that are really intelligent and know how to use weapons, and holy shit, they can fly spaceships. I mean, they're basically just giant hairy humans.
Yes.
And like 10 times stronger. So
in that battle,
that would be crazy.
When they're partnered with the clones and then they're fighting the droids, I thought that was a really cool battle. I like better that battle than I like the Jedi battle with the droids.
Yeah, I agree.
That was much better done.
So cool. Snowing.
It was pretty awesome. I liked it. They did pretty good. All right, so you answered my question. Well, we don't have an answer for it. We just don't know why Wookiees cannot be Jedis.
Yeah, I guess it's just something that, I mean, as far as I know, there may be something has happened in the novels where there's a Jedi Wookiee, but that would be just so badass. Like, just imagine where you think all is lost, and then it looks like just a really tall Jedi comes walking in, and he takes his hood off, and it's Chewie.
And he says, "Shit, that'd be pretty cool." I wonder if
saber.
What can I say here?
His lightsaber would be brown.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Imagine when they're little kids and whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you're not a Jedi," and then Wookiee is like, "Well, I touch boobs. You guys are dorks with your ropes. I can shoot you from far here."
I guess it would be hard to train Wookiees with regular, with any other alien kids, because they would just, tear their arms off.
Yes.
Oh, C-3PO. Why did they wipe C-3PO's memory? I believe so he couldn't mistakenly tell or be hacked to find out where the Skywalkers are.
Okay. Thank you. Gosh, I completely... Okay. So see, in these answers, our first episode, for me, answers the first episode question, because and you did say that. You say, well, they wipe his mind and you'll know in this movie. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So they wipe his mind. So he would not. See, I told you, C-3PO, between C-3PO and Princess Amidala, whatever, that was a ruin of this galaxy between the two of them. If it wasn't for Obi-Wan Kenobi and R2-D2,
that was the ruin of this galaxy. That is such a great line.
Yes.
So what happened to the clones?
Yes. Please explain.
Well,
there's two parts of that question. Okay. One, in episode 2 and 3, the clones seem to be really great fighters. They have very accurate. I mean, they kill the Jedis. They have very accurate shooting. They fly really well. And then on 2 and 3, they cannot shoot you from 6 feet away. They shoot 10 times and they hit everything around you except yourself. I mean, they're horrible shooters in that one. So what happened there? Like, they just the training in 4 and 5. I feel the stormtroopers, because they become stormtroopers, right? That's who they are.
Right.
Okay. They cannot shoot because they shoot Luke and Han Solo and everything. They don't hit anything. It's like the training protocol went out of the kapoo. Somebody lost a
Right.
manual one day, and they're like, we're not going to train them shooting anymore.
I think what happened was, because this guy Saifa Diaz, he got shit started over at hello, over at Camino to start the cloning program, right? And Palpatine found out about it and killed him. And then eventually, he was still just a senator, so nobody knew that he killed Saifa Diaz and that he was secretly overseeing the clones. I mean, that's why Obi-Wan went over there. And the senator is still in charge, even though at this time they're in peace. So, like, Yoda's just like, yo, I'm fucking getting the clones, and they're gonna fight for us because we know about them, and technically right now we're all on the same side. Yeah. But then when the Emperor turns his apprentice, Anakin, to Darth Vader, he execute Order 66, which is some sort of microchip that they were all born or all implanted with when they were made to just turn on the Jedi. Because Palpatine's been planning this forever.
Yeah, but my question was more, the two parts was, and I didn't tell you the second part. So the first part of the question, what happened with their quality?
So then, Saifa Diaz isn't overseeing the clones. The Emperor's taken over. He just forgets them, and there's like duplicity. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie with Michael Keaton. It's like there's a theory where if you aren't careful and you keep making clones, they'll slowly get dumber and dumber and shittier, and crappier. Yes. So that's just my guess. I don't know.
Quality control.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
they were just an any. Somebody was like, not higher.
It was like running by itself, and things would break, and they just like kept going, and they just kept making like lousy shooters.
One thing I thought was pretty cool was it made a lot of sense was the big fighter jets and the big carriers that the clones have. They have like an early design of what you'd later see in episode 4 and 5.
Right.
You start recognizing a little bit of the wings too, and then what is it called? The Stormtroopers fighter.
The Star Destroyer.
Is that what they are? The little ones. They have the wings on the side.
Oh, the TIE fighters.
The TIE fighters.
Yeah, TIE fighters.
Obi-Wan and Anakin are flying an early version of that.
Oh yeah.
You notice that?
Yes.
Episode 3.
Yes, it's like right. It's like and then there's like an evolution of everything.
Exactly. Yeah, they changed from whatever the design was, and they were gonna go faster, and they do this thing with the winds, and you're like, oh, that looks like an early version before they did some upgrades on them, I guess.
Oh, right.
Because it is what the Stormtroopers eventually use. And then second part of the Stormtroopers. So what happened to the clones? My question is because on episode 7 and 8, they're not clones anymore. Like one of the big characters, there's Rey's friend.
Right. So this continues my theory that like the Emperor got his apprentice and he used the Stormtroopers to wipe out the Jedi, and he just kind of like let Vader, let the Empire under him like oversee. But that whole clone thing kind of like went to shit, and eventually they stopped making them because they probably got so bad, and they started just kidnapping kids and raising them from birth as Stormtroopers, like Finn.
Okay.
FN2187. Finally, you said it was the worst ending in all of the movies. What? I can't really remember like the exact ending other than.
So the ending was who's that?
Darth Vader, when he tells him that like Padme's dead.
When he tells him, that scream was very that. Now I get it. No, it's Well, that's the thing. This goes back to what I believe. If there was a movie 101 thing, it would be, hey, if you're gonna finish, right? Especially we know what's gonna happen afterwards, so we know what happens later. It's not like we don't know.
It's like the movie Titanic.
You need to
know the boat is sinking.
And you know the boat is sinking.
Execute telling that story the best way.
Exactly. Well, Darth Vader, regardless that he's dark, he has a fan base. I'm a fan of Darth Vader. I like the guy.
Oh, he's iconic.
I think we all like him. There's something about Darth Vader. Yeah, you still want to have a beer with the guy. You know, you still want to hang out with him. And to leave it, they are making his suit, they're making his armor, they put the mask, and at that moment, me as a low rank level fan, okay, not as you probably had a boner at that time.
I was underwhelmed.
Well, this is where for me the underwhelmment happened. They put the mask, and you hear the breathing. Oh, the breathing that he does. Do it. You can probably do it. There you go. Oh, awesome. And then they start the scene. They ask him what happened with Princess Amidala, whatever. Pat, yeah.
You're rich. You killed her.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's actually I can. I'm not looking at you saying it, and it sounds just like it. And then he does a scream, like so very awful scream. And then the movie continues. I'm like, dude, you could have finished that movie with the mask, and I think everybody would have been okay with that.
Yeah.
I think we would have been perfectly fine. Finished with just the mask comes on, and all you hear is the breathing. And then the movie comes.
Otherwise, let him become Darth Vader in the middle of the movie, and be
exactly
Darth Vader for like half the movie, which would be fucking insane.
Yes, exactly. Him discovering the new powers that he has, because right. I mean, he is now who he's supposed to be. Yes, you have a great point. That's option B. Either finish it when they put the mask on and let people go, that's it. That's
right.
This greatest thing happens. Or middle of the movie, develop it a little bit more. But then it ends with this stupid scream that it does. And then they take Luke to the uncle and the aunt, and they take Leia first to that couple.
Leia. Or Ghana.
Ghana. And then they finish with the uncle and the aunt, which are very. I guess was a shout out to the original movie, because you see the two suns in the horizon, and is that why it's not a. We know that what's gonna happen. It gets worse. The story doesn't get any better. It's not like you're giving me hope. No, I mean, I know that the new movie is called New Hope, so. I guess I wanted to make a connection between the end of that one to the beginning of the other one.
Yeah, because it's mostly a dark movie.
Yeah, but I think it was the worst movie of all. It's very unclimatic. I really thought it was going to end with that, the mask. Since the mask is putting on, I'm getting excited. And then they start talking, and then he does the screaming. I'm okay, it's going to end there. No, keeps going. Oh, all right.
And then they're standing there, like, looking out, like, at the, the Star Destroyers, like, I'm like, okay, is he going to do more? Is he going to talk more? No.
I know. Yeah. No, very unclimatic. Very.
And now you understand why the prequels were so weirdly reviewed, and why these fans. Because I remember as a kid, when I saw it, I was like, yay, it's Star Wars. And way deep down, I was kind of like, I thought it was going to be better. But I never said it out loud. I was like, I'm not gonna like say that I didn't like it, like because a lot of people liked it, right? Or I think I kind of like wanted it. I wanted me to like it, and I just didn't.
You didn't want to be that guy. You just did not want to be that guy.
I didn't like it, and then I started hearing like slowly, like no one liked it. I was like, okay, good. There was nothing wrong with me. There was something wrong. It was bizarre. It was terrible. The first one is the worst.
I do believe that to appreciate the new series 7, 8, and 9, I think you need to watch those. I think that explains a lot.
Totally.
Or you need to have a friend like you, and then I can just text you questions and ask you what is this about.
Right.
But I like the fact that I was able to pick up, I started with Rogue One, and then I was able to watch 7 and 8, and then Rogue One after that. I guess I don't remember the order. And I still appreciate the story. I think I'm looking forward to what's coming after Episode 9. There's some cool characters that me, as not a big fan, I would like to know more about. I think The Mandalorian has shown that you can develop a great character, and doesn't need to be the prettiest character. Doesn't mean somebody perfect. It can be somebody to completely screw it up. But if you let that character develop, it's a great story.
Totally.
There's no lightsabers in The Mandalorian, and I don't care. I don't care there's no lightsabers. I don't care that there's nothing too great, too big. Is in the all west of the galaxy, and
right.
And I love that. So I'm looking forward to it. And
well,
I appreciate
let me ask you about this with Mandalorian. Did you watch the most recent episode?
Episode 5?
Yeah.
Yes, I watched it.
So, did you notice the very, very end? Someone walks up and kneels down next to that girl who, got shot. That badass bounty hunter.
Not only yes, I'm wondering who that guy is, but he sounds like he's wearing spikes. What do you call it? Spurs. Cowboy spurs. Like I thought that was pretty cool. That there is that little bit of a west.
I heard that jingling. I'm like, why would they focus so much on this? Why would you edit in that sound? Mm-hmm. And then I went back and I watched Empire Strikes Back, and Boba Fett makes the exact same sound when he walks. And now the theory is that Boba Fett. Well, hold on. I'm not going to say more. You need to watch Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Episode 6.
Yeah, episode 6.
Tell me your numbers. Remember, episode 6. Okay, I have to watch episode 6.
So funny how some people know him by name, some people know him by number. All right, well, that'll do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure to let us know what you thought about Cornelio's questions from the prequels for the first time ever. Correct me if I made any mistakes, because I never claimed to be an expert. I'm just a huge fan. And make sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment, tell your grandmother. I love you. Bye.
Oh, hey. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment and hit the notification bell. And if you're finding me for the first time, I do trailer reaction videos, hot take movie reviews, news briefs on anything Marvel, DC, Star Wars. You'll love it. Thanks.